Yeah, good evening, Marvin and Andrea. That's right, guys. Constitutional Amendment 1 asks voters if they are in favor of specifically writing in the state constitution that no person who is not a citizen of the United States shall be allowed to vote in elections. Now, one side says that this is a solution that's in search of a problem. The other side says that this is a preemptive policy to close what they see is a loophole. In addition to Kentucky, at least 7 other states are considering a similar proposal tonight, so it is a topic that many voters are hearing about all across the country. Now, the issue of school choice is also a big topic for debate, and what Kentuckians are deciding on Amendment 2, as you just heard from Allie. We will be joined in just a little bit by Trey Watson and Jared Smith, 2 of the hosts of the Kentucky Politics Weekly podcast, diving deeper into that debate and what they are expecting tonight. Votes are just starting to get counted on these races, and we will be tracking them all as we go through the night. But for now, I'll send it back to you guys.
Bodie Brooks joins us again to break them down for us. Bodie, let's start with that competitive House race in Lexington you covered for us last week.
Yeah, that's right, guys. We were closely watching the race for the Kentucky State House in the 88th District, which covers a decent chunk of greater Fayette and Scott counties. Now, the race is between Democratic incumbent Sherilyn Stevenson and challenger Vanessa Grossell. Stevenson has held on to her seat by a razor-thin margin. In fact, last cycle, just 2 years ago, out of more than 16,000 total votes. Now, this race, it was decided by 37 votes. It was that close. In 2020, the margin was a little bit bigger, about 1,000 votes, but the map has been redrawn since 2020. Now, Stevenson has leaned on her rising star in Democrat leadership and influence on major policy decisions, some that have been GOP-led. Grossell, a former teacher, says that she believes the district deserves a lawmaker that would be a more effective policymaker in Kentucky's GOP majority. Now, we are also watching the race in the 45th district between Republican Thomas Jefferson and Democrat Adam Moore. The seat is currently held by Republican Killian Timoney, but he lost the primary to newcomer Thomas Jefferson in a landslide. Timoney is described by some pundits as a moderate. Voting no on a controversial transgender bill last year was something that Jefferson used to his advantage, setting up a dynamic between a more liberty Republican candidate and a well-financed Democrat in a possible purple district. Over in the other chamber, in the Kentucky Senate, we are keeping our eye on the 27th district. That race is between Republican incumbent Steve West and Democratic challenger Molly Jean Crane. This is another race that Democrats are hopeful will be competitive against a well-financed, party-backed incumbent. There was a lot of ground game to cover in this race. The seat covers 8 counties, a little Fayette, as well as Bourbon, Fleming, Harrison, Mason, Nicholas, Robertson, and Rowan. Door knockers, they got their steps in. State Senate District 17 is another important race. That is a race in Georgetown that will fill the seat of departing Senate Majority Floor Leader Damon Thayer. So an important race filling a seat held by a prominent GOP member of leadership. The competition is between Republican Matt Nunn and Democrat Kiana Fields. Thayer has not had much of a challenge holding this seat and campaigned heavily for Nunn to succeed him. And now to East Kentucky, where there are many eyes watching the 11-name field in the 29th District, the seat that was held by the late Senator Johnny Turner of Harlan, who passed away 2 weeks ago, just hours before a deadline for write-in candidates to join what was at that moment an empty race. Now, Turner's name is still on the ballot, as well as his opponents who withdrew. Those votes will not be counted. The only votes counted tonight are votes cast for these 11 write-in candidates. Andrew Saylor, Craig Blackburn, John Clem, Justin Noble, Leonard Hendrickson, Willie Kreis, Paul Williams, Scott Maiden, Tanner Hesterberg, and Tyler Ward, as well as Valerie Horn. The family of Senator Turner, as well as the state Republican Party, has endorsed Scott Madden for the seat. Governor Beshear, along with other prominent Democrats, have endorsed Justin Noble for the seat. Given less than 2 weeks to campaign and the extra effort to garner votes with a write-in, this is one race that we're going to be watching very closely tonight. This is a very interesting race. We're just getting started to get the results in for this as well, so we'll be keeping an eye on many different races as the results slowly start to trickle in.
Bodie, we've been talking about this one all night, of course, the race in Kentucky's 29th Senate District.
And this was a race that really, came very late in the game with the death of Senator Johnny Turner, who passed away about 2 weeks ago on October the 22nd. Candidates had about 48 hours until the final deadline to submit their candidacy as a write-in candidate. Now, Turner's name, as well as his opponents, they're still on the ballot, but votes for either of those candidates will not be counted. The opponent withdrew a lot earlier in the race. The family of Senator Turner, as well as the Republican Party of Kentucky, have endorsed Pineville Mayor Scott Maiden in this race. Governor Beshear, along with other prominent Democrats, have endorsed Justin Noble for the seat. We still don't have any results yet in for the night. Whenever these votes are tabulated, they are going to have to actually open up the machine and go through the ballots individually and count them there. So we may wait a little bit to know who actually ended up winning this race.
All right, thank you, Bodie. Another interesting question on a lot of ballots surrounds the question of medical cannabis. Some voters are being asked about that on the county and city level.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, and it can be a bit confusing. The map here behind me shows what counties in our viewing area had a ballot initiative today. The counties that are shaded yellow left the question of cannabis sales up to voters. The green counties, they've already opted into the program. The red counties, they have already opted out of the program. Some of these yellow counties have cities that are voting on the question as well, and some of the red counties have that happening too. It can be a bit confusing. This is a list of the cities that are voting on the question themselves. The city versus the county level decision. It's an interesting topic to watch here, especially in those cases where both the city and county are voting on the question tonight. So there are some voters out there who saw this on their ballot twice. An easy example of this can be found on the ballot right down the road from us in Georgetown, where you can see that citizens in that city, as well as the citizens across the entirety of Scott County, voted on this particular question. We will have those results coming in a little bit later in the night when we get them. Yeah, guys, I wish I could say that the debate over Amendment 1 was as heated as Amendment 2's is or was, considering as we're starting to see that that is likely going to be a defeat tonight. We're seeing the opposite case tonight with Amendment 1. It's almost a complete flip of the results you're seeing in Amendment 2. Here you're seeing the amendment likely to pass tonight. We have 54% of the vote in, 62% of Kentucky voters voting yes on the amendment. And just to remind you folks what it was all about, this would be adding just a couple sentences into the Kentucky State Constitution where you had those that were against this saying that it would be redundant, that the Kentucky Constitution already says that citizens are the ones who are able to cast a vote under our Constitution. This is adding in a sentence that says that anybody who is not a citizen does not have the right to vote. The supporters of this amendment felt that that was a loophole that needed to be closed. As you can see, with this amendment likely to pass tonight, that will likely be put into our state constitution, adding another layer of security in order to protect the right to vote. Marvin, Andrea? Yeah, guys, we're going to be talking about a lot of the local council races. Now, to start, there was a lot of contested races all across council, but we're going to be focusing on two incumbents that appear to be losing their seats tonight. We begin in District 1 between incumbent District 1 council member Tana Fogel and Tyler Morton, where Fogel appears to have lost her seat. Challenger Tyler Morton is leading by just over 1,200 votes there with 58% of the vote, 99% of precincts reporting in. It is likely that Tyler Morton will be taking that seat. Police arrested Fogel back in March at the AT&T store on Richmond Road after the manager had asked her to leave and she refused. She was charged with trespassing, menacing, and resisting arrest, but those charges were dismissed by a judge in April. Morton says that he was born and raised in the district and would be honored to serve the community that helped shape him into the person and leader that he is today. Now, we also saw a tight race in the 4th district between incumbent District 4 council member Brenda Monarez and Emma Lee Curtis. Monarez is in the midst of a legal dispute with fellow council member Denise Gray. Gray has an emergency protective order against Monarez that was restricting her from being within 500 feet of Gray, her home or workplace, following alleged incidents of unwanted sexual advances by Monarez dating back to October 2021. Again, you see here Emily Curtis likely taking that contest. Marvin, Andrea, back to you.
More on that race.
Yeah, guys, this seat was one that we were watching pretty closely tonight. It is currently held by Republican Killian Timoney, and if you recall from the primary, he lost it to newcomer Thomas Jefferson, and that race was in a landslide. It set up a new race between Moore and a candidate that was seen as a little bit further on the right politically. So this district, it was viewed as a purple one and a possible flip. Democrats appear to have done that tonight with Moore eking out a victory by 131 votes. It was a tight race there. Now, even though Democrats are picking up a seat here, it's possible they may be losing a seat in another district, in the 88th district, which covers a decent chunk of Greater Fayette and Scott County, as the race is between Democratic incumbent Sherilyn Stevenson and a Republican challenger Vanessa Grossel. With 95% of the votes in, Grossel is leading by 53 votes. This will be a razor-thin race. Keep in mind there's a new set of maps here that have been redrawn since the last presidential contest back in 2020. In the 2022 race, Stevenson won this seat by just 37 votes. It is a very tight contest. If Grossel ends up winning this seat, Republicans will pick up a seat. but it's making up for the ones they lost in the 45th district. Marvin, Andrea?
Update. Bodie?
Yeah, before we let you all go for the night, I wanted to take a moment to at least talk about this race because we're only just now starting to see some of the results come in, and we just actually had them change just now from moments ago before we come on air. So these are new results that I'm actually just seeing for the first time. With 13% of the vote in, you're seeing how much this is dramatically moving around, and you're just surprisingly seeing Democrats lead in a very strong Republican area. This is Harlan County, where a Republican incumbent was expected to sail right into re-election. You had 11 writing candidates in this race, and you're starting to see a big mix of the type of turnout that is showing up in this race. Again, only 13% of the vote in, so it's very possible you have some dramatic shifts in what's going on here. But whoever ends up winning this race at this point, it really is anybody's game because the endorsed candidates are not leading right now for either party. Let's move on to another race that we're watching. It appears that Democrats have both picked up a seat and lost a seat. Same thing with Republicans. They picked up a seat and lost a seat. Democrat Adam Moore has declared victory in the 45th House District race, flipping that seat from red to blue. The seat is currently held by Republican Killian Timoney. If you recall, he lost his primary to newcomer Thomas Jefferson, but Jefferson, he also put up a very tough challenge, as you can see here, 50-50. It appears Moore is winning this race by just a little over 100 votes, 131 votes. Many speculated if this district was purple enough to flip. Tonight, it certainly seems to be the case. Last House race I want to touch on, it appears as Democrats pick up a seat, they're also losing one as well in the 88th district, which covers a decent chunk of greater Fayette and Scott County. As Democratic incumbent Sherilyn Stevenson seems to have narrowly lost to Republican challenger Vanessa Grossel. Again, 50-50, Grossel leading here, 96% of the vote in by 214 votes. Andrea, Marvin.
Bodie, thank you so much.